Hello and welcome to Baby Steps, presented by BetterHelp. I'm your host, Jordana Abraham, and on Baby Steps, we're exploring the various paths to parenthood that lay ahead when starting a family doesn't come easy. With the help of weekly guests, I'm taking you on my own fertility journey and asking the questions that need to be asked. Trying to have a baby, especially when you experience obstacles, can be a huge emotional and mental challenge. And that's why I invited BetterHelp to join us as the presenting sponsor of Baby Steps. If you're thinking of starting therapy, I recommend giving BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, convenient, and suited to your schedule. Just go to betterhelp.com/babysteps today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/babysteps. Therapy can give you the tools to navigate the difficult transitions in life, and the path to parenthood is definitely one of them. My guest today is Brian Kelly, also known as the Points Guy himself, who is here to talk about becoming a single father through egg donation and surrogacy. But before we get to Brian, as always, here's my sister, Dr. Naomi Bernstein. Welcome, Naomi.
So happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to love this episode. I loved talking to Brian because, we talk a lot on oversharing about, how like limiting beliefs maybe hold you back. And I think especially for someone like Brian, who's, a single gay man, there's not a lot of things in society that you see around single fatherhood. I mean, you see a lot around single motherhood, and you really don't see that much about men trying to have babies on their own. So I think what he's doing is like really amazing, not just for the visibility of it and really showing people and normalizing that as something that you can do, but just kind of like the really cool thing to me about his story is that he just like had this goal and then he just did all the little steps to get to this goal. And as a man without, like a uterus, it is hard to, you have to do a little bit more than say a woman who wants to have a baby on her own. There's like a whole process of like, not only do you need to find an egg donor, but you need to find a surrogate to carry that baby too. So it's like a very complicated process, but I loved how he kind of like made it seem easy in a way, just like because like he really broke down all the different steps. And he's the points guy, so he travels for work all the time, and he just made this life where he has this baby and brings this baby everywhere he goes. He just like really made it happen. And to me, that's so incredible because there's probably so many reasons to say I can't do this or I shouldn't do this or it's just too big of a hassle to do all of these steps to get the life that I want.
Yes, totally. And I think this is, first of all, I love the fact that he's, just doing it, figuring it out and doing it. And it's I think can be so inspiring for everyone, single gay men out there, coupled gay men out there, and even, single straight women out there who are kind of like, I don't see this happening. I think what blocks people a lot of times is like, I had an idea of how this was going to happen and it's not happening that way. So even for you, like I think I've said to you in the past, kind of like, you will have a baby. It's might not happen the way that you wanted it to happen or the way that you thought it would happen or the easiest path. But if you want it to happen, like it will happen. And I think this is a perfect example of if you want it badly enough, you can make it happen.
Totally. And I think that like when you can make it into a positive thing of like, I'm just going to figure it out and there'll be some probably roadblocks along the way. But if I just keep going and I have a plan and I just I stick to it, like I will achieve my goal. And sometimes it gets really hard to believe. And I think that that's why the visibility of other people's stories can really be inspiring.
Yes. That's why I'm so excited and happy for the world that you're doing this series and having people like this on to talk about. There's so many different ways that this can happen. And I hope start to normalize it so that there's more community around people who are trying to do single parenthood or trying to do things in a bit of a different way, that they can kind of feel like this is possible. Because not only do I know this one person that did it, but even like for little kids, like maybe there's a sitcom television show that starts to show more of this stuff. So it's just normalized and people don't feel like this is such a stretch, that this is something that's incorporated into society at some point, like different types of families and different types of parenthood. So I'm so excited that you're doing this.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you guys are going to love this episode, and you also just get to find out like what it takes to become a single father. in 2023 and all the obstacles you have to jump over to get there, but that it can be done. So let's just jump right into the interview and we'll welcome Brian. We are here with Brian Kelly, founder of The Points Guy, father to Dean, baby Dean, so cute.
Baby Dean, he's turning a year and he's now walking. I'm like, slow down, buddy. Like, this is a game changer that I was not quite ready for.
Is it like everyone says it is, that it just goes by extremely fast and you're like, I can't believe it's been a year?
For sure, but I go both ways with it because everyone like maniacally told me like enjoy every second. So like I intentionally, like I took 2 months paternity right away, and then what I would recommend to other parents is potentially don't do all of your paternity in the beginning because they're sleepyheads and they're just like sleeping all day, every day. And like that time's certainly good to bond. But I am so thankful I saved 1 month for when he was 6 months old. I spent the month in Portugal for my 40th.
Amazing.
And it was so much cooler. You really kind of connect deeper. I mean, in the beginning days, your child, you're not really getting to know them that much. So, sadly in the US, we have such little parental leave that I didn't even think of splitting it until someone else told me. So if you can think about it, especially if you have a partner, kind of sharing it, doing it later on is awesome.
I'm sure, because you get like a real bonding where they like are awake and they know who you are.
Yeah, in the beginning, it's just like they really just need a warm body, just and milk and sleep. I know that's what because I still travel for work. And my friends were like, I was feeling so guilty in the beginning. They're like, with all due respect, your son has no idea that you're like there or not, like the bottle in his mouth, like sleep, so.
Who's there or not there, for sure. But to back it up, I guess, just because, on the show, we want to hear all different kinds of fertility stories. And so can it take me back to like where you were when you just decided that you wanted to do this and to do this alone at the time, right?
Yeah. So, well, I've always known I was supposed to be a dad. And I think before I came out in the late 90s, like, actually, I didn't come out to like 05 or 6 actually. But when I was like a little gay boy in the 90s, that was my biggest, I was like, I don't want to be gay because I want to have kids. And like, it was this huge conflict in my life. And, I came out after college and kind of came to grips with it. But then I would say like late 2000s, it was like 2011, my friend who was a single gay guy, very successful in media. Is
it Andy Cohen?
No, but my friend Nate Richardson, who, he used to run Yahoo Finance and Gilt Group. And like, so I met him in like 2011 and he was like, I'm having twins via surrogate. And I was like, what? You're allowed? Because this was before Andy, before Anderson. And he had these twins and he lived in a 5th floor walk up in the Village. And he did it. And
on his own?
On his own. Wow. I thought he was insane. I was like, you're at least going to move from the walk up. I'm like, I can't do a 5th floor walk up like by myself, let alone
imagine the workout.
So I remember just thinking to myself, because I saw it, and I think visibility, we all agree, like is so important when you see someone doing something like so different.
Of course, yeah.
And that's why like today I'm so open about this journey, and I like have loved all of the feedback, even from straight women who are really good in their careers, haven't found the partner, want to have kids, and I'm like, do it.
Yeah.
It's possible, and like screw everyone else's. Everyone's always going to have an opinion. We all know, the saying about opinions, that everyone has them. But like, if you feel in your heart, which is what I've like always felt. My journey was different because I started The Points Guy. I was 27 years old. It was a blog. Like the Betches story is similar.
Yeah.
I was like, it was 2010. I started a blog for fun. Had a job on Wall Street where I was making like $70K a year in my 20s, which is basically living in poverty in New York. Like I remember I had credit card bills. I was like, so I started The Points Guy just for fun to make like a little bit of side hustle money. I was basically a travel agent. You would pay me $50 and I would tell you how to use your points. Never in a million years.
Is that still your going rate?
Yeah.
A little more expensive now.
It takes a lot more to get me out of bed these days, honey. My life changed so rapidly. At age 27, The Points Guy started. At age 28, it blew up. And then I started making millions of dollars in affiliate revenue, which was just like literally overnight.
Right.
Like the New York Times wrote about it. I got in, all the credit card companies were like, this guy knows more about our programs than we do. Let's start paying him. So it was almost like winning the lottery, where I went from just one extreme to another in a matter of like 2 months.
Right. Well, you're sort of like the expert in this very specific field. And that's sort of like.
And there were a lot of other smarter people in me. There were points bloggers. Everyone's always like, The Points Guy's the first blog. I'm like, no, there were many others for many years before.
Yeah, if you Google, you see others, but none of them are as good as what you do.
But none of them like made it a business. So long story short, like The Points Guy just blew up. it has been the most incredible journey. I ended up selling it in 2012 to a publicly traded company called Bankrate. They owned creditcards.com. They bought the Points guys, this tiny little asset. They're like, let's make a bet on like the upscale credit card market,
Right.
which was my audience. And then we just continued like year over year, doubling in growth, profit. Like, so throughout, from 2010 up until 2020, I mean, I jet setted the world. Like,
Saw
it was
all.
a good, we went from 5 employees to 10. We were in WeWorks, and all of a sudden we had our headquarters on Park Ave, and then a huge headquarters on Fifth Ave. Like, it was such a fun ride, but I was going 2,000 miles an hour. I always knew I wanted to have a kid, but frankly, like, I was not supposed to be a father in those years. Like,
Right.
because I didn't say no to anything. Oh, Hilton, you want to go to the Grammys with us tomorrow? This event, that event. But I did want to have a kid in my 30s. So like the pandemic hits, I'm in a relationship that I should not have been in, but the pandemic for me was like, I decided like the day I was going to quarantine, I knew shit was going down. So I broke up with my fiance.
You knew that was not going to, that was, they said in the pandemic, it was either like an accelerator or
And
killed
for
it
me,
fast.
it was like an immediate, and I'm still friends with my ex-fiance and we laugh about it. We're like, we were never supposed to get married, but life was 2,000 miles an hour. I never had a chance to think. And in my head, okay, I've done well in business. Let me get a hot husband who is really fun. Okay, he'll do. Like,
Okay.
let's jet set
Checking the
around.
box.
I proposed 9 months later, but like that was not the way it was supposed to go for me, and I knew that deep down. So like, pandemic hits, go to therapy. I'm not even traveling. I can't travel, so my addiction to travel was pulled off, and it was this unbelievable moment to reset, spend time with family.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's almost like you find out who you really are
Totally.
when you take away all those distractions.
And
right?
it's like I had this beautiful home in Bucks County in New Hope. So anyone
seen it.
listening,
Looks
New
amazing.
Hope
Horses. Looks beautiful.
I started riding horses in July of 2020 because I was taking my nieces, and I've always loved animals. I've always loved horses. And I remember being like, I'm 37. Can I start riding horses? And my trainer was like, get on that damn horse, So now I have 5 and live on a horse farm. I know, like
amazing.
So 2020 was like the ultimate reset button. And it was the biggest, my friend and owner of Red Ventures, my current company, just said to me, he's like, never waste a crisis. Like, when you're in crisis, like, just, there are so many opportunities to use it to your advantage, even when you, like, it's inconceivable to think that way.
Yeah.
And
that's actually an amazing, like, thing to hear, I think. And especially for, there's people listening to this who are thinking about, having kids, but also in the midst of maybe like trying and it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that idea of like, when you're in crisis, take advantage.
Yeah. And like, push yourself outside what you never thought possible. And if you're going through fertility, there's so many ways to create families. And I think in our heads and our family pressure, and I know there's cultural, like, against surrogacy. I know a lot of my friends with strong religious backgrounds are like, oh, I would never be allowed to do that. And I'm like, says who though?
Right.
Define your own path. And I know that's easy for me to say to someone who's like, you don't know my family, but like, also, like, in this, we have one life to live. Like, if we live our whole lives based on other people's standards, like, it's just not the way.
Yeah. And there's so much stigma around anything that's not just like the normal path.
And it's amazing to me how much people don't know about IVF and surrogacy. Like, most smart people I know are like, wait a minute, you're surrogate? What? It's not her egg? Like that, I would say 85% of people assume it's like the surrogate is the same one. They're like, but how do you know it's your baby and can take it home from the hospital? I'm like, you don't understand. It's a fully, egg donor is 100% separate, plus my sperm in a laboratory. We made embryos.
You probably know more than anyone who's had a baby, quote unquote, naturally.
Yeah. I have seen my son, and actually his birth was just, we can get into that in a minute, the most amazing day of my life. But when we transferred the embryo, and I saw, you can literally see from a petri dish, they double check your name,
Social security number.
And I'm in the room with my surrogate, who I loved. Oh my God. And she was a lesbian. Her wife's in the room. We just hit it off, like, love them. And then, I see my embryo. It's a 9-day-old embryo in the petri dish, gets put inside. And I saw the embryo land in like the wall of
her uterus.
Yeah. And I just start sobbing. I just, like, in that instant, I knew I was going to be a dad.
Right.
And it's never guaranteed. They say
it's like 60 or 70%.
Yeah. And actually, my doctor, so highly recommend Dr. Saeed Danishman, Dr. D from San Diego Fertility Clinic. Incredible. Like, top
You did it in San
notch.
Diego.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my surrogate ended up being in LA, and so even though I live in New York, I interviewed My other tip is this, like when you're going to do surrogacy, don't go to a surrogacy agency first. Go and find the IVF doctor that you connect with, that understands your needs, that has done, if there's a specialty that you need. If you're LGBTQ, highly recommend doctors who are very familiar with that. Dr. D, he's like the top LGBT doctor in Europe, because most European men, most people around the world have to come to the US.
I've heard that.
It's crazy. Yeah. Even in France, so these super progressive countries, illegal to have surrogates.
Illegal, right? I heard in Germany it's illegal to test the embryos for to see if they're
in Canada. My
normal.
Friends in Canada, I was able to choose Dean's sex, because once you do your genetic testing, so basically your odds of the transfer increase dramatically, because you can do genetic testing, which they can literally score each embryo based on the strength and like all these different genetic markers of like the success. So I used my A+ embryo, my first try with the very solid surrogate who has had recent successful births. She was 29.
Oh, she's done this
before. So this was her fourth child. And like one of the biggest factors of choosing a surrogate is recent successful, uncomplicated births. So she had 3 in the last like 6 years.
Okay. So she was born
and she's 29,
this, essentially.
Healthy. Yes. I was kind of naive. I was like, okay, anyone will do sort of, but it's funny I think I was also in denial because I didn't want to further complicate it because there's so many hoops to jump through but my friends who I've recently had discussions with, like actually finding a surrogate, there a lot with your child is determined during gestation. So like if you are really stressed, hungry, exhausted during your pregnancy, that can have real negative impacts on the development of the child.
So you want someone with good vibes.
Good vibes. You want someone in a stable home who has, a stable job.
Right.
And I will say, surrogacy is amazing what these women do, but there are surrogacy agents. This is a big business. Big business.
Yeah.
It's unregulated in so many ways.
Was the process overwhelming or was it kind of straightforward?
Well, I got really lucky because my surrogate was amazing. We connected.
Right.
I didn't really rely too much on the agency. Once I connected with her, it was like we were on the other sides of the country, but, daily texting, how you feeling? What are you doing? Oh my God, you're feeling kicks now. And, she'd be like, I have heartburn. I think he's going to have a full head of hair. Like all these, but I'm also the mindset, like this was her 4th child, healthy. Like I'm not a micromanager. I'm not going to, she knows what to do. Yeah. Don't mess with like a good thing. So,
right.
But I know and I'm also just not a control freak in that way, but I do know a lot of people who are like, no, like they have to eat these certain, I'm just not like that in life. Like,
right.
I'm just kind of like, all right, at this point, we got to let the process play out. She's an expert in human
she's had these
birth.
healthy children. Yeah.
I know nothing.
Right.
So,
but to back up, like in terms of, you said the egg is not her egg.
Correct. Okay. So let me just back up to this process. So 2020 hits.
Okay.
A couple months go through the pandemic. I'm like really having clear mind. I'm like, okay, I really think I want to have a child. So I had went to my primary care physician who's gay and had kids, and he connected me to a surrogacy agency, like this tiny one in like Minnesota. Long story short, like I just didn't vibe with the woman. And she was like really short with me in emails, like, duh, you idiot. Like I'm a first-time father, single dad.
This process is so emotional. You would, it's nice to bring some level of that to it.
She was just a brat. Like there were emails where I'm like, am I and what I will say to anyone in this process, like having a child so emotional, do not team up with people you're not vibing with day one. Like put in the time in the beginning.
I think that's amazing advice, because I think also it can kind of feel like once you've been with someone for a bit, even if you're not vibing, it can feel like, well, they already know my whole story. They already know the whole background.
And I will
it's
tell
really
you
hard.
now, once you see those warning signs, and if you don't like abort mission, I mean, not to use that term on this podcast, but no, seriously, like it's never too late. And even with surrogacy agencies, like so I was so lucky. Then I went to a different agency and they're like, okay, it'll be 3 to 5 years. There's a huge waiting list. So I'm like,
oh my God. Right.
So I'm like, so in the end, this is my advice. Yeah. First, find an IVF doctor you love, because the IVF clinics work with all the surrogacy agencies. So getting in with the surrogacy agency helps get the process started. So, find your doctor that you like. They'll recommend agencies they work with seamlessly, because that's what you really want, like a seamless connection between your IVF doctor and your surrogacy agency. That ideally they have worked together before, because there's so much like information that needs to be
Yeah, and I feel like if the further removed they are from each other, the longer things take, the more things get, the communication sort of can falter. And I do agree it makes the whole process worse. Even me, like I've gotten blood work on Long Island and I see a doctor in New York City and it's still like there's a little bit of like a weird lag.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, our like medical systems are not as interconnected as they should be. So, but then get in with the surrogacy agency. So the big ones like Circle, I interviewed with all them and they're like, it could be 2, 3, 4 years before you get a surrogate. And I'm like, I'm impatient,
right.
And I'm like in the airline world, I'm like, okay, where do I buy elite status to jump the line? And they're like, you can't do that. It's,
How many
human
points?
life.
How many points for a surrogate now?
But like, seriously, where's the priority boarding line? So luckily, the surrogacy agency that I worked with focused on LGBTQ families, Elevate, love them. They actually DM'd me on Instagram because I opened up in an interview about how I wanted to have a kid. And they said, we actually, if you ever want, we focus on LGBT men, single men, specifically, like we work with a lot. And by the way, for anyone, single people, especially gay single people, there is a lot of like discrimination still. Even when you go to look for eggs, there were eggs that I would, like egg donors where I'm like, this is a perfect match. And then it would be at the very end, stipulations, no gay people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was even legal.
Especially no single gay men totally legal to fully discriminate based on sexual orientation and single.
Are a lot of the, surrogates or I guess gestational carriers, I'm not sure what the term is, are they in like the Midwest or is that another part of it?
Step. So vibing with your doctors and surrogacy agency, and then the surrogate itself is really important. Mm-hmm. And I have, so I hit the jackpot. My surrogate, she had done it multiple times. She lived in LA, lesbian, awesome person, vaccinated, cool, loved her. Like, and California is really expensive to do surrogacy. However, it's the best state to do it because it's like there's so many protections for the parent. Like I had Dean's birth certificate ready to go before he was even born, all the legal work, paperwork, no questions asked. My friend who did it in 2011, he did it in Nebraska and a local judge wanted to be an asshole and literally just wouldn't sign the birth certificate for weeks. So he's in Kansas with his twins, single dad, trying to get home. And, an ass just decided to make his life hell. He eventually had to. So
that's stuff you don't even think about when you think about all the little things that go into.
And to further complicate things today, with all the Roe v. Wade happenings, with that being overturned, if you want the ability to terminate a pregnancy due to, irreparable harm to the mother, or if like the embryo, if you want to have that option, there's a lot of states now that like you can't. And now there are certain states that will punish a woman for traveling out of state. Like it's getting really dicey.
Right.
So my advice, of course, my dad always told me cheap is expensive, and I fully get, we haven't even talked about the money side yet, which is diabolical.
So I've heard, right?
But if money's not an object, you really want to work in a state that's, friendly towards women and surrogacy in general. And funny enough, New York State was vehemently anti-surrogacy up until a couple years ago. Yeah, Andy Cohen's second child was one of the first, if not the first baby surrogate from New York State.
I did not know that. I didn't know you had to.
Yeah, it was really funny. It was blocked by a super liberal lawmaker. She was feminist, and from her perspective, surrogacy was like anti-woman, exploitative. Okay. So she blocked surrogacy for years. She somehow was able to. So finally, New York State, one of the most liberal states, now
you're now able to
supports
have
a woman's right to choose to be a surrogate. If a woman wants to be a surrogate and give the gift of life to someone, it should be the woman's choice.
I would imagine.
In my crazy opinion.
Right. I mean, that's the same thing with egg donation, right?
Yeah. Like, you should be able to choose,
Right. Because you can also choose to donate your embryos.
Totally.
Like if you have any left is another, they make you sign the form of like what, what you.
Yeah. Because most of the time it's like either you can't just give them away to people, you either have to use them yourself or you could donate them. Yeah.
Right. Or they destroy them, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So you found the surrogacy agency almost before you found the.
Well, so in the end, my first surrogate company who I didn't end up using, she did introduce me to Dr. D. So that was my blessing from that relationship, even though it didn't work out. Dr. D and his people, like immediately when I went there, I just like loved everyone. Like they're just good people, top notch. And at the same time, I got a DM from Elevate and I verified it with Dr. D. He's like, no, we love them. We work with them a lot. So that was like, okay, good.
Great.
So my surrogate who was in LA, she was able to drive to San Diego. So it was like even though I had to fly across the country, I mean, who cares? I'm the points guy.
Right.
It was a little bit annoying. I was really busy and one day I had to fly to LA for 4 hours and fly to Miami right after for an event. But it's like, so what? I'd rather be inconvenienced than my surrogate who's pregnant and during COVID traveling.
Right.
So she was able to drive, which was a really added benefit.
How did the process work with the eggs?
Yep. So the eggs, that's a whole nother process. So the eggs, you can, if you're interested, today you can sign up at egg agencies and a lot of times you have to email them and they'll give you a login.
Okay.
So there's a lot of egg agencies that will only show you baby pictures. But if you pay a premium,
like pictures of the
donor as a baby.
Okay.
But if you pay premium, there are agencies that will show you adult pictures, which for me was kind of important. I'm a visual person.
Okay.
And it's wild. I mean, I was in my house, in my home theater, and I would pull out my phone and AirPlay it to the screen, and we just go. I mean, you can search for height, ethnicity, religion,
education,
sure, health. For me, what I looked for was my gut instinct with this person. So the egg donor I ended up choosing was just seemed compassionate, healthy. I have family members who struggle with depression and mental illness, which is as we're learning more and more about that, there are a lot of people who are very open, like schizophrenia or this or that. And I'm just for me, because I've seen.
Well, I mean, that's wise. It's kind of like if there's one person with that and there's another person also with that, that's when it's more of an issue than it's just one person has that in their background.
So anyway, so you can, it really tests you as a person though. You're like, what do I, and some people, how the health looks, I did struggle with my weight a lot as a kid. So I was like, let me try to use someone who's has, frankly skinnier genes,
right.
because
Did you look for a taller person or
so that's a really interesting thing. So I'm 6'7". I'm freakishly tall. I'm too tall. I love my height. I wouldn't give it up for the world because I can walk into a room and I've used it to my advantage my whole life.
Right.
Immediately, no matter where I go, it can be annoying. How tall are you? Do you play basketball? But also and especially earlier in my career, getting to know people, I really have this ability to leverage it to my advantage. So being tall is part of my identity. So I want my children to be tall.
Okay.
However, my dad's 6'3" and my mom's 5'6", and I ended up 6'7". I have a brother who's 6'6".
Wow.
My oldest brother's 6 foot.
I wonder how that happens.
I know. So I'm I also don't want it too tall, right? 'Cause I don't want a 6'9" son. I mean, honestly, I would love a 6'3", 6'4". That's a great, amazing height where you're but not freakish hitting. I have indentations on my head. Still to this day, hit my head on things. So, but you never know, right? But yes, I tried. I think my egg donor was 5'7". So, and my son is really big. He's going to be a big boy, which I don't know. I'm just kind of that's my life experience. And I kind of wanted that for him too.
It's kind of amazing how, it's funny you talk about the egg choosing process. It's a kind of amazing how rational you can be when you take love out of the equation in that sense.
I know, right?
Do you know what I mean? You could really just think about, who, what you want the kid to be aside from, this person's so annoying, but I love them.
Yeah. I know.
Or they're short, but I love them.
And you can just get a vibe. I think, as you get older in life, you kind of can look at people and judge them. A lot of times they're kind of right in terms of this person just looks annoying, and they actually really are.
Well, I don't want an annoying baby.
Yeah, no, literally. So I wanted healthy, skinny, healthy, athletic, and chill. I think my egg donor was a nurse and loved animals. And you never know whose genes are going to take over, but my son is literally a carbon copy of me. It's crazy. He's
That's awesome. It's almost like you cloned yourself.
Everyone who meets my son is he's literally you. He's so he's charismatic. He's on the go. It's my mom is he is exactly as you were. He eats everything in sight, anything you give him. Wow. But he's a handful. He's so,
now you know what it's like to raise yourself.
My mom is good luck, because I'm
So then if you have another one, can you choose the same?
So this is what I do. So
donor?
when you get eggs, you can buy a single egg, you can buy a batch of 3, 6, 5, whatever. However, what I would recommend to people is just buy, especially if you want multiple kids, you can essentially pay for a cycle. So where the egg donor, you choose your egg donor, they go through, they get hormones and everything.
Retrieval process,
you retrieve an entire month's worth of eggs.
Anyone who goes through IVF does, right?
I ended up getting 30 eggs, which is awesome.
That's great, yeah. So she doesn't, it's not like the eggs are already there frozen.
Some are, but when you defrost eggs, my doctor was you lose some.
Right.
So
they're more viable if they become embryos faster, is what
correct.
I've heard. Right.
And my understanding is when you retrieve the eggs, you inseminate them all right away.
Okay.
And then all the embryos live for 9 days until they hit blastocysts, which is when it's okay, this is game time. These are the eggs that will actually be viable. And then you can do
It's like the Hunger Games of just.
so if you do genetic testing, you can then get the grading on each. So I had 30 eggs, 16 embryos, and then after genetic testing, I had 6 like high quality embryos.
That's great. Okay.
And actually 7. I think one is kind of like on the edge, but would probably
Right.
be
They all
fine.
have like
And they say you should have 3 embryos per child that you want to have just to be safe.
right.
But if you do genetic testing with the top surrogate, my doctor's like, it's really an 80% success rate if all the stars align and you do the genetic and your surrogate's like primo ready to go.
Right. And also, like, I mean, I think a lot of people doing IVF have pre-existing conditions and issues, which maybe makes that rate a little lower. But in your
Correct.
case,
In my case, when
right.
it's like genetically tested, top-notch embryos with a top-notch, healthy, perfect
Right.
surrogate candidate who's, and they time this, the science behind it, like they know the
Exactly when to do
exact second to do the transfer, the day, they do so much up until the transfer of the embryo, they're checking every single day blood work and
Right.
they know exactly like the right time to do it.
Yes.
So,
and you and the donor and the surrogate are all like reproductively healthy, so it probably
Correct.
again
Yeah.
increases that rate.
and even with
more.
my semen, they put it through an obstacle course. So basically, my semen had to go through this crazy obstacle course where only like the very strongest survive. So they only use the very, very best.
ICSI,
Yeah,
they call it.
Yeah,
right.
That's I speak in very unscientific terms, but yeah. So like they're through the process, it's kind of amazing. You're hopefully getting the very best, healthiest possible embryo and then child.
This episode of Baby Steps is sponsored by BetterHelp. It's almost the end of the year, and this time, while it can be exciting, can also be really stressful. And a lot of people feel a lot of sadness and anxiety about it. And it's not just the stress of finding gifts, but it's also the stress of seeing your family, of it starting to get cold, a little seasonal depression. But adding something new and positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings. And therapy for me is always something I go to when I'm feeling anxiety or stress around anything, whether it's the holidays, winter, or just like things that are going on in my life that are not going as I planned. I've been to therapy for over 8 years now, and nothing has helped me quite as much as therapy has overcome whatever obstacles come my way. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/babysteps today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/babysteps.
We transfer the embryo, and my egg donor, we hit it off. She's like, I'm not supposed to like tell you anything until I go for my checkup in 10 days. But she's like, my last 3 pregnancies, she's like, I knew within 3 days. She's like, I know being pregnant, honey. And she's like,
Wow.
She's like,
Okay.
do you want me to text you what I think like this weekend? I'm like, duh. And she texted me over the weekend. She's like, Brian, I don't feel anything. Like, doesn't mean, but she's like, just FYI, like, I'm not feeling what I felt for the other 3.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, you know what? What's to be will be. Like, you can't, this is Nate.
You have more,
yeah.
right? You have
I
more
have
embryos, yeah.
So I'm fortunate. Like, and then the next night I was at dinner with my parents. I remember exactly where I was, and I just get the pregnancy test, and it was positive.
Oh, wow.
And
Must have been
I
an amazing
get chills
feeling.
thinking about
Right.
it now. And oh my God, what a feeling. Like, it was just like incredible.
I'm sure.
And then of course you're still like trepidation. It's 5 days, it's technically like 2 weeks because
Right.
the embryo had 9 days. But yeah, luckily every test, everything was good. The pregnancy was awesome. I flew out for all the major appointments. Although now it's really amazing with technology. They have clinics where, and actually I think my favorite checkup was the 3D scan where actually I stayed at home and I watched it on my computer. They can live stream.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and it's
great.
the 3D facial recognition one.
Right.
So I'm
you
like,
can like see the baby's face.
so I would, so it was actually, I got a better experience being at my computer screen than if I was in a room trying to hunch over at a TV,
Right.
So
it sounds like the whole process went like pretty smoothly for you.
it was,
Yeah.
I'm very, very fortunate. So it was like, I transferred at the end of January. So then she's like, she came a week or 2 early for all of her babies. This was her 4th. So I'm like, oh, this baby's coming early. So my plans were to stay in LA for like the last month, which was fine for me. September in LA, like, and she was north of LA. So I ended up like getting a place in Montecito. So I had my little Oprah moment.
Nice.
So I rented an Airbnb or
started your
Vrbo.
paternity leave early.
I did. And I mean, because it was work, I still work from home. So I'm working from Montecito. I'm going to Orange Theory Fitness every day. I like really got into like beach walks, baby watch. I'm just staring at my phone all day. I've got all the alerts set up. So then she's like, oh my God, like 3 weeks. It was like September 15th. She's like, oh my God, I'm like dilating.
When was she due?
She was due October 11th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm like, I actually had just gone to the Shark, Barbara Corcoran's a friend, and she was like, come to the Shark Tank premiere. So I'm in like in Studio City. Okay. I arrived to the Shark Tank premiere and literally get a text. She's like, I'm going into labor. I'm like, and she was like an hour and a half north. And this was rush hour.
Good thing you came out that early though.
And then so she's like, I'm 4 centimeters. She's at the hospital. She's like, I'm at 4 centimeters. You can't get. She's like, they told me to go home. She's like, I'm having spicy food for dinner. So I'm rushing up to Ventura County where she was. And I mean, it was the most crazy experience. But she ended up being 4 centimeters and then nothing. Like day after day. So she went home. So she's like still 4 centimeters, but she's like no contractions really. We went weeks where I was just on eggshells. Like every night going to bed, I'd be waking up in the middle of the night. Like, God forbid I'm missing. Because my friends.
Do you go with her to the appointments?
Yeah. Okay. But like at that point, they were just like, oh, come back every other week or it was every week. I'm like, every week, but she's 4 centimeters. Like, let's go every day. And they're like, Brian, like, of course I'm so excited because it's my first.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. It's like,
but it's so funny because when you go to these appointments, I'm sure anyone who's listening who's had kids, like you think the world's, because you're having a kid, but it's like so routine for these offices. They're like,
right. They're not as excited as you are.
And I don't even understand force. I mean, I know that we had to get to 8 or 10 or whatever to like really. And they'd be like, okay, just check. I'm like, don't you want to probe inside? They're like, no, because probing inside could like force labor,
right.
Like, so I'm like, okay, Brian, stop giving suggestions on like what the medical community could be doing. But I was like, and he didn't end up coming till October 8th.
Oh, wow. But that's probably better for him.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, stop, as impatient as I am, I'm like, keep baking, like,
how much did he weigh?
He was 8 pounds, 15.
Oh, wow.
And he was
that's
broad.
Big baby.
Yeah. She had an epidural and luckily, so she ended up getting induced because he was like, and right before, my friends are doulas, so I met with doulas before, which I highly recommend to anyone, just like understanding what's going to happen during labor.
I heard it's like it's sort of like a coach.
Coach,
right?
yeah. So my friend Louisa Birch, she's amazing. She's like an independent New York City doula. So she's like, so she explained to me like skin to skin. She's like, immediately do skin to skin. It's so good for the baby. It's so good for you. It'll bond you. Mm-hmm. Telling me about all the benefits. So my goal was just be in the room and hold him immediately. I didn't want them to wash him, weigh him, nothing. He comes out
they let you
and
do
he's
that?
on to me. Yeah.
Okay.
So the hospital was like, absolutely, no problem. And then the doctor was like, hey, like she's induced, she's starting to push. And the doctor's like, he's like, you're not squeamish, are you? Do you want to deliver your child?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what does that entail? Like, yeah, sign me up. And my surrogate was like, Brian, go for it. Like, so he's like, I didn't even put scrubs on. The doctor's like, just put some gloves on. And lo and behold, and it was like they induced her. She got her epidural, and like 15 minutes later, my son was born.
And you delivered him.
And I delivered him. So I am.
That's incredible.
Gay man. I've never had sex with a woman. Staring.
Yeah. How was your introduction to the vagina?
It's an incredible. I mean, I've always had respect for women. But after experiencing childbirth, and my mom's like, I've never seen childbirth like you have.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure we've never seen a vagina like you have. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Like, and my surrogate was pretty petite. I actually was worried in the beginning they wouldn't let her have my child because I was a 10-pound baby. But they wouldn't let me put two in. They were like, one, she'll be fine. This is our fourth,
Right.
But it was amazing.
Do you want to put 2 in? I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
Okay. That seems
twins
like a lot.
isn't for me. I mean, all my friends who have twins, amazing, but I just
seems like a lot.
One was good for me.
Right.
But yeah, his head started to come, and then the doctor's like, just put your 2 fingers on his forehead. And he was just like coming. I'm like, how is he breathing? Like, and lo and behold, he came out, and I pulled him out, and just there's all these photos. I posted one photo. So her wife videoed the whole thing, which was so cool. Great. So I have it from like my surrogate's perspective, and he just comes out, and I just start bawling hysterically. Like, looked at my surrogate. I'm like, thank you so much for like, what a gift. Like, surrogates are angels on earth. Like, she, yes, they get paid, but it's nothing compared to the amount of stress and like it really is
the gift to give to someone.
Literally, I mean, birth is dangerous. Like, you could still even there's still a lot of risks that these women take to like make people's lives come true. And the nurses in the hospital, first of all, they were like, we've never had a single man pregnancy, so they were, all the nurses were like, this is the first time ever experiencing this.
With a
single
dad.
man, having a surrogate, like with no mother. They're like,
Well, that does seem like to be almost a relatively new thing. You see like Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to the post office to get his passport, like, which I highly recommend. Everyone, like, once you're home from the hospital,
I mean, you're the points guy.
Yeah,
He should have been born holding a passport, right?
just get it done. But I went to the passport and they scream at me, "Excuse me, we because it says everywhere both parents have to go. Like online, it's like 88 places. Both parents must be there. So I go in with Dean. And they scream at me like in typical post office fashion. "We told you online, bring your wife and come back again." And I'm like, excuse me, like I'm a single father. And they were like, "What?" And they were like, "Everyone come here. We've never seen this before." Like they were like, "Really, huh? How do we do it?" It was like, it was really funny. They like kind of apologized.
You must feel like a little bit like a pioneer.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, now I think it's so normal because we see Andy and like, but it's actually
that was so recent.
Yeah,
really.
And it's actually very rare. I mean, the hospital, but the hospital is amazing. Like, so what I would tell people is like you kind of think there could be discrimination, especially now traveling. I always travel with this birth certificate because with child trafficking, I went to Belize with him last year and they were very strict. And I had read online, but luckily I've had no issues. And luckily too, I'm like, you can Google me, like there are news stories now about this, like where I have some like credibility if people ask, because
but that must be tough for anyone else who's, a normie, so to speak.
Yeah.
That is something to think about.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, I have trepidation going to certain countries where LGBT rights are not even accepted. So, so I'm like Dean's been to 10 countries in his first year. He's an amazing traveler, but there's, what I would say to anyone is, don't let your like discrimination or like it's still possible. You can do this. Right. Like it's not as hard as you think.
Can you talk about like the finances that go into this thing?
Because let me have a cocktail. No,
I mean that seems to be like a big.
It's crazy.
I mean, like
took my breath away. So basically, I mean, you're looking at. I'm thinking about having my second, and to the agency, I was like, "Can you send me the list of
costs?"
Because honestly, the first time around, I almost was just like turn away. Like I'm having this kid, I have no choice. It's like check, because it's not just like the egg donor. There's so many fees, then there's insurance fees, and then I have like executive amazing insurance, but I had to pay cash $41,000 for the birth because my child wasn't on my because like if I would have knocked up on a one night stand, my surrogate 100% covered everything forever. But because I am gay and had a surrogate that I intentionally wanted to have a child, my health insurance wouldn't cover him until he was born. Like
That's very frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's actually a bunch of lawsuits going through like, because state employees of New York, like it's discrimination. So eventually that'll get sorted, but it's up to companies now to really, so let me just pull open like the list.
And I mean, again, you're a successful guy. So if this number made you flinch, I can only imagine how tough it must be.
So the global estimates for surrogacy, if you do it in the US, it's basically 2 to 272.
Oh, wow.
So basically
all in.
Yeah, all in. Like
what's the biggest
like
cost?
Screening fees, $3,200. So the biggest cost is agency fee. Well, no, the surrogacy. So surrogates get between 50 and 90.
Okay.
The agency gets between 50 and 90. And why I say 50 to 90, the agency, the one that I had been talking to, has a normal program for $50,000, or you can pay 90, a VIP program where you get to see all the surrogates in the system.
As adults?
No, the surrogates. So basically, most surrogacy agencies will do one-on-one matching. Like when we decide you get someone, but if you want to see all the surrogates in their system, you can just pay double.
Oh, wow.
So you can select which one you want.
And this is after, like, for most agencies, I'm sure, have their own waiting list already. So.
Correct. And then it's just like the IVF is like 30. Well, IVF is 36 to 43. Legal is another huge 20K.
Right. You would imagine because IVF is covered by a lot of people's insurance. It should be, you would think that's also something that they should be changing.
Yeah. So it's freaking, you can go to Mexico. You can go to other countries to get the costs down, but it's huge. And even I would just say, recommend to anyone, whatever the agency tells you, budget like 20% more at least.
Right.
That's not even talking about, baby nurses and all of that. I'm lucky I waited until I had the funds to do this. Being a parent is the most amazing thing in the world. Like, and but like, I'm so fortunate to have help. I really had to sit and think, like, I love my son so much, but not having help, like is
yeah, especially I'm sure if you're doing it alone as
as a working parent.
Yeah.
But so many
Right,
people do it. You figure it out. But I mean, I'm super fortunate that I, from day one, I had an amazing baby nurse for the first 3 months who like taught me so much. And
was there any issues that you encountered, like kind of were you dating while you were waiting for him to be born?
I stopped dating when I was waiting for him to be born because I was like, I can't possibly be in a new relationship and in a new relationship with my son, who's going to be my number one priority, no questions asked. Like, it's just like, I knew I just wanted to put everything in. So I stopped dating before my son was born. And then for the first 3 months, I mean, I was like, I'm not going to go on a date. I've got my son. And then I turned 40 this March and I spent a month in Portugal. So then I was like, let me just start dating when I come home from Portugal.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to start dating someone and then like have this I had like a bash in Portugal with like.
You wanted to be single.
Yes. So I came home from Portugal at the end of March, March 25th. And then April 1st, I was out in Philly, like for a friend's birthday and like met my current boyfriend, who's like the sweetest. It's been like 6 months now.
How did he feel about?
I was just straight up. And that's what I was like having a baby. I'm like, look, great. This is the ultimate equalizer. Like I'm telling everyone straight in the beginning, great. Don't waste my time. I won't go on a date with someone who doesn't want to have kids, And he's younger he's 10 years younger than me, but he wants kids of his own one day. He is so good with my son. My son like loves him. So we'll see.
That's great. And I think that's a great way to go about it because I'm sure,
I could not imagine being a new parent. Everything that is upside down. Like everything is like challenge, your schedules, your like friendships, your family relation, like factoring in giving someone else a lot of your time to make sure they feel special and like, no, I'm sure it can be done, but I couldn't have done it.
And also just, I feel like that's such a confident way to go about it because I'm sure there's people who have, kids on their own because they want them who kind of worry, will people be turned off by the fact that I have this child or that I did this? I didn't wait to meet someone to do it with them. But I think the way that you're describing it is so much more empowering where you're just like, this is like, if you're not buying what I'm selling, then I'm not interested in even going out with you.
Correct. And I think, I mean, if you tell someone I had a baby as a single parent, like it shows you a lot of things. Like you've got the ability to follow through on something, to move mountains, to get what you want, to, be
and you're not waiting
dedicated.
For anyone.
I'm not waiting, like, which also could, and I'm sure for single women, that could be a turnoff, but also like you want to be with a strong man anyway, who's going to support. So that's my thing in life, whether I tell people like, should I come out or not? What if my family doesn't, stop caring about other people. Like it will fall into place. Make yourself happy, focus on your own health and energy and what you want in life, and the rest will follow. But don't be, if you really want a kid and then you wait so long and then, sitting and spending the rest of your life, when that opportunity passes is way worse than doing it.
Right.
We make in our head these like scenarios that like are worst case. Think of the best case, like having a child. If you want to have a child, there's no boyfriend or, there's no feeling you can get like when your child looks at you in like the cutest way, or when you see them make these huge milestones and that like the love you're giving them is like, you're bringing this next generation onto this earth. So I say I'm all for like supporting people to do it your own way.
Right.
You'll figure it out. When you become a parent, you just learn to figure shit out.
That's what it seems like. Yeah.
And no one's doing it 100% right. Like, being a working parent, like you're always going to feel guilty. Like, am I spending enough time? But the beauty of parenting is like, no one is doing it fully right. But like, I think just doing it. If you believe in your heart today that you want to have a kid. And with IVF and stuff, everything takes a long time. So you don't have to make the decision today. Like start the process of checking your fertility. You can, start interviewing doctors. Like the process takes a while. So
how long would you say it was until when you started looking into this?
It was 2 years. So,
2 years.
Which is actually pretty quick. Yeah. So I started October 21 and I had him October 23.
Okay.
And I had one false start. I had an egg donor that, so you will have issues, most
there always are.
I had an egg donor that like lied and said she didn't smoke, but when they did her blood work, she had like all this vaping, she was a vapor. And I'm just like, well, if she lied about that, what else did she lie about?
Well, can you trust her to like
So then I had to stop, go back to scratch. And then, it takes a couple months to like ramp up a new donor. So luckily mine was I had a very good process. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people who have not. But
even with your good process though, it seems like
I have a good friend who once I had Dean, he was like, and he's super, super, a very successful business person, single gay man, early 40s. He's like, you inspired me. So he used my doctor and my agency. And in 1 year, he had a baby.
Just 1 year.
Yeah. So, and because he's just
Time,
like
why?
he's an A-type corporate type. He's like, no, he trucked through the process, just expedited it. Like he was.
What a time to be alive
Yeah.
that you could have a baby probably in less time than most people who are just like,
Right.
a
If you-
married
but
heterosexual couple might have one.
If you're like, you can do it in a year. Don't let people, you find one agency that says, no, there's a 3-year waiting list. There's always another agency. Like, don't take no for an answer.
Right. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this whole story. Is there anything I didn't ask that you feel like would be really helpful for anyone to know? I think we covered a lot.
No, I think we covered a lot. I think the core of any IVF journey is like just getting the doctor and like the office that you like feel really supported by, and like they can help guide you through the rest.
I think that's a great thing to note, no matter what kind of like fertility thing you're going through, is to just make sure that you trust the people, because the whole plan is really in their hands, and there will be ups and downs. And so you need to kind of feel like you trust their process and their skill level, and because we're not doctors, what do we know, right?
I know, right? You have to trust so many people. You have to trust the surrogate. You have to trust,
Vibes are everything. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I think it's so amazing what you're doing. Just in visibility for, anyone who wants to be a single parent, but especially like a single dad. I think that that's, not something you've seen at all up until the past 3-4 years. I hadn't seen that anywhere in pop culture. So I think it's amazing what you're doing. And thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me. And yeah, it's been the best decision I ever made.
Amazing. Well, you heard it here. Probably not first, but also. Thanks again. We'll see you next time on Baby Steps. Thank you again to Brian Kelly. So amazing to have you on. And thanks again to our presenting sponsor, BetterHelp. I hope this episode has been a help to you on your path to parenthood. If you want to get started with therapy, I highly recommend trying BetterHelp. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Visit BetterHelp.com/babysteps today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/babysteps.
Betches.